Cool. Hey, Dave. Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year, buds.
2022. I can't believe we're already in 2022, eh? Felt like this coffee chat we did last week, yeah, but it's been about a month, hasn't it?
uh, yeah, I think even over a month. I still feel like we're just going into 2020.
I know, it's crazy, eh? But I
Barely
think the
left my
last two
office for
years
two
has been tough
years.
for a lot of people. I know,
Yeah,
I know. It just time flies, and looking like I was reflecting in December and looking back at 2020. I still remember brainstorming in 2019 with you how 2020 is going to look, and then brainstorming 2021 and how everything we envisaged. And to be fair, we've accomplished a hell of a lot, but I mean, COVID threw a lot of those plans out the window. So, Dave, what do you think? Are we going to accomplish everything this year, or do you think COVID is going to come back and bite us?
um, I think people don't
No
care
answer.
anymore. I think it doesn't matter what
Yeah.
COVID's doing. I think people are just over it. Well, I was just actually got off the phone call now with Sadeshni, our events coordinator, because we've got premier events
Mm.
coming up in Feb, and we're like, how many people do we book the venues for? I'm just like,
Yeah.
no idea. Like
Yeah.
20, 50, 100, 300.
Well, I mean,
So if you guys are in
yeah,
Joburg,
exactly.
let me
Yeah.
know if you're going to be attending our premier events in February. We got
Yeah,
Cape Town and
who's
Joburg
keen for
premier events
last
in Feb.
property events again?
Yeah, in person,
Yeah,
actually meeting people, exchanging business cards.
yeah. Actually, imagine going back to the Bryants and Country Club event. Say we can get 200 investors, 250 investors in a room, networking, swapping business cards, doing deals, and we will get back to that. It's a matter of time. I do believe we will get back there. And I mean, looking at a lot of people I've spoken to over Christmas, lifting the curfew for New Year's. My gut feeling is this is going to be a good year. It's a year of growth for everyone. The last 2 years been very challenging, very hard. And I do believe and feel, and I go with my gut feeling. And I think my gut feeling is telling me it's going to be a good year for all of us. And it's good to see some of our regulars back. If you are joining us for the first time, this is the Monday 1 o'clock coffee session with Dave and myself, Andrew, where it's all about property for about 40 minutes, just chatting about what's happening in our property portfolios. We want to find out what's happening with all of you and your property portfolios. And then every Monday or every other Monday, we will be inviting a guest to talk about their journey. What are they up to? What's their plans for 2022? So I think start off by if everyone that is on this call, just maybe share what is one of your goals for 2022. I'm pretty sure you've gone home end of last year and you've thought about what you want to achieve. So Sylvia, good to see you there. Joan, some P-Ware, Justin, all of you, just share one of your property goals for this year. What are you trying to achieve? Is it buy your first investment property? Are you consolidating? Is there a specific strategy that you're looking into? Are any of you looking offshore? Just share one of those property goals with us. And if there's anyone that you do want to see on this coffee chat, anyone specific that you want us to interview, let us know as well. On Within Facebook, there, give us some love, a heart, a thumbs up, and tag a friend in. Anyone you know that's interested in property, please tag a friend in. Um, and then, yeah, Dave, what do you think? Should we maybe do while people are still joining and stuff? Should we get into a quick session or a quick roundup of what events are actually happening this week?
Yep, 100%. Let me do that, and then we got a special guest we can bring on after that, and we
Cool.
can get into the Q&A. So if you guys do have some questions that you'd like to have answered, like Bati over there, put it in the chat box so long, and then Andrew and I will go through them in a bit. In short, real easy. It's January. We wanted to go at it nice and slow for you guys. So we've probably got about as many events in January as we did in some of the weeks last year. So this week's super easy. We got a coffee chat today. Thursday is our mastermind. So that's Thursday the 13th from 6 to 7:30. So that's for our professional members. We've got a mastermind running. It's Andrew, myself, and one of the coach will be on there. Not just answering questions, but also helping you set some goals, holding you accountable, and just sort of, especially with January being the first one, we'll have a lot of push to make sure you guys are committed to some plans for the year. So that'll be a really good one. And then just looking a little further forward, like Drew said, every Monday, Andrew and I have our coffee chat. That's 1 o'clock here on Facebook, YouTube, and the Facebook group as well. And then our first networking event will be only virtual networking event of the year, which is on the 26th of January. That'll be a networking event talking about student accommodation. Is it a viable strategy for 2022? Drew, we've got Donovan Zaya on there. We've got a few of the other coaches. We've got Murlalo, one of the Invest of the Year Award category winners last year. So it's been a really good networking event. It was the last one we scheduled for virtual, just because we didn't know how the COVID numbers would look. But it'll hopefully be the only virtual networking event we do this year, which is exciting.
I know. Hope so. Crazy. And I see there's quite a few goals coming through here, Dave. Are you finished with the events, or there's still more events coming up?
That's it. After that, there's a support webinar. There is a special event that maybe Drew a little later in our coffee chat. We can talk about what you've got planned for the 29th. But even that's looking quite far forward for us. So
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Eh? Cool. Well, let's just see who's with us now. Yako says he wants to buy his first block of flat. I know the whole of last year, Yako, you were trying and had some bad luck there. So good luck. Yako will hold you accountable there. So Pee-wee, my goal is to finish renovating a property. They'll be listing it, and we'll be listing on an Airbnb by the end of February. Well done, some Pee-wee. Gershon, Andrew and Dave, good to see you. Looking forward to the year. Absolutely. Goal is to develop a rental flat, says Joan Jossi. What else have we got there, Dave? What else can you see?
well, we've got Nico on board. I just brought him online. Hi, Nico.
Hello there, everybody. Happy New Year.
How's it, Nico? Happy New Year, man. How was your break?
It was fantastic. I think it's probably the only time of the year that I normally do take a little bit of break. I don't take enough leave, but that was good. So we did enjoy it.
Exactly. But this year you will, hey, Nico?
We're going to have to.
Of course. And I mean, Nico, looking back at 2021, it was also one of those years, lots of uncertainty in the marketplace, looking at interest rates going up. I mean, how did the brokerage do last year? Any feedback about 2021, and maybe touch on what the brokerage plans are for 2022?
Yeah, I think last year was fantastic, especially when you look back at learnings and the things that we learned from the brokerage and what our investors are looking for, types of opportunities. I also think it was a lot of growth when it comes to the type of sourcing agents that we did go through, even at the sourcing bootcamp and the trainings that we've had there. There was a lot of successes there. That helped us grow with regards to, finding more stock into our pipelines and making sure we can offer more product to our investors as well. And I think, one of the main key learnings that we've learned from last year through this process was that we need to make sure we understand our investors a lot better. Because a lot of the opportunities that we did bring to the table was either, it went over the timelines or the OTPs expired, or, there was issues with people that were looking at deals differently and they were looking for something else in a deal. And understanding that from them makes our lives easier, because then we can provide them with a product that they're looking for, right? And I think that is our main key focus for this year, is to make sure we learn to understand our investors even better, and then provide them with what they're looking for better, if I can put it that way. So that was important for me.
Definitely. And I know last year there's lots of lessons learned around the OTP. Any tips for our members who are looking to secure deals, whether it's suspensive clauses or they're buying through a new company? Just any golden tips or any experiences that you've had that you can share with everyone?
I think the biggest tip there is obviously to put enough time in there for acquiring your finances through an OTP, and making sure that the OTP is correctly structured that way. I think a lot of OTPs has actually fallen through just because of finance not being raised in time. And then they actually lost out on deals. There was actually deals that, couldn't go ahead because they had someone on backup. And as soon as that falls through, they weren't willing to extend it because they had someone else on backup. And that is a very important thing I think everyone should be aware of. And
so you talk about timelines. So we're talking about, we're going to buy a property and we're going to make it subject to getting a bond finance. Is that subject to getting a bond, or a bond at prime, or 100% bond? How would you name, or how would you reword that clause? Because in a lot of OTPs, it's like just subject to getting finance. What does yours say?
So it would definitely be subject to raising 100% finance on the bond. If you then do not get it, it's still your choice if you would still accept it, right? So it is always safe for you as the purchaser to put it up to 100%, subject to 100% bond approval. And you can physically also go in a little bit further and put in the interest rate, saying it's subject to 100% at a specific interest rate that you've calculated, so that you know it won't go over that value.
Yeah, exactly. So even if you do apply for finance and you get 100% LTV, which is great, but it could be that your interest rate so your LTV is good, but your interest rate is prime +1 or prime +2, and you don't want to pay that. If you said subject to getting a bond at prime, it gives you a get out clause. Now, how long should people be putting in the OTP? Obviously, from a seller's point of view and an estate agent's point of view, they want to put the shortest time possible just to get the deal going through, which makes sense. But we know that in some cases the banks are quite slow. What would you recommend in terms of a time frame?
So I wouldn't go anything less than 30 days, applying for bond finance, and then 45 days for providing guarantees for that. And that's obviously dependent on your strategy and what type of property deal you're looking to put through. I mean, that's not going to work at all if you're doing it back to back, as an example. You would need to then raise or have much longer timeframes in place to accommodate the strategy. But for normal multi-let, purchase, just applying for a bond, I would put in 30 days. You can probably get it done sooner, but rather work on the 30 days and put 45 days as you're providing guarantees.
Absolutely, eh? And then Nico, just with regards to what kind of deals are you seeing or are you being offered at the brokerage? I mean, do you come across little starter one-bed flats, off-plan opportunities? Do you come across multi-lets? And while you answer that question, I'm going to ask everyone that's listening right now, Bruce, Jaco, Justin, some P-Ware, Tiamo, who else have we got on here? There's quite a Gershwin, Joanne, Rafilwe, Butamelo, Beatrice B. Just let us know, Mongezi, what type of deals are you all after this year? Is it the Airbnb strategy? Is it straightforward multi-lets? We're looking for cash flow. Is it student accommodation? Is it blocks of flats? If you could all just let us know right now, what is your ideal property? What does it look like? What's the affordability? What area you're looking at? And who knows, maybe someone's call's got a deal in your area. So let us know right now. What type of deal are you looking for and where? So, Nico, what do you think? Because you obviously get deals offered to you from all over, right?
Yeah, I think I can split it into two. The one is what is difficult to find and what is easy to find. And I think, there is a huge list of people that's saying, I'm looking for good quality flips and they're looking for good quality buy-to-lets. And those ones are the most difficult to find. And I think, reasons for that would obviously be securing it at the right purchase price. Or if you're looking at a buy-to-let, the levy sometimes or most of the time kills the deals when it comes to cash flow positive in the deals. But when we are looking at, what we can find a lot or more commonly, and that would be your multi-lets, right? So people are more commonly giving us or willing to negotiate on a multi-let opportunity. Because when they are selling, they're not looking at the amount of cash flow or the rental income you can generate if you actually split rental income on a specific property. And therefore, we can make it work on our numbers much easier than what a seller would even consider. And therefore, we can then negotiate the price a little bit and then get a good acquisition price, but also get a good cash flow and therefore good return on investments.
Absolutely. And are you finding with some of the multi-lets, are you able to refinance them? So it might be that it's a 1.4, 1.5 million rand purchase price. And sometimes you've got to put down like R500,000 rand to do the renovation, new kitchens, bathrooms, liquor paint. Are some of your clients registering the bond at a higher amount? So yes, because your initial phase one capital output, transfer duty, transfer fees, bond attorney fees, the brokerage fees, it can sometimes be a hefty amount. Are any of your clients actually refinancing?
So I'm actually glad you're bringing up the point, because this is a lack of discussion point, and I do think most people, and it might be just because of an education perspective, that they don't consider that they can register the bond higher when they purchase the property. So I would say 9 out of the 10 customers that go through the brokerage register a higher bond up front. And that is something that needs to be considered. If you're looking at a deal that's being advertised through the brokerage, and we say there, that the capital required is 500,000, you might be able to register that bond at, and this is an indicator, that they're working on about 150% of your purchase price. And it's obviously easier to get it registered, especially if you bought the property at a lower price. But that's just the indicator. I won't say you need to work on that as cast in stone. You obviously need to go through your application process. But yes, everyone that goes through the brokerage register a higher bond up front so that they can get as much of that capital that they put into the deal back out, and then is able to go on to another deal.
Absolutely. So, I mean, if somebody out there is looking for a property that gives a positive cash flow of a few $1,000 a month, and they've got affordability of, say, $1 million, 1.5, 2 million, and they can raise some capital, then a multi-let could be for them, right? Whether it's Pretoria or Joburg or Durban or wherever.
100%, Andrew. Yes, that's definitely true.
Okay, brilliant, fantastic. Let's see, and ladies and gents, I can see a few people have just joined us. This is the coffee chat with Andrew and Dave, and our guest today is Nicholas from the Brokerage, who purely sources investment-grade property deals, whether you're looking for your very first investment property. It could be an off-plan, it could be a one-bed flat, or like most investors who are, you've got a few properties, are looking for multi-lets, properties that just generate a stronger cash flow. So I've been asking Nick a few questions around the OTP, some of his lessons learned from 2021, what the brokerage plans are for 2022. For those of you that do want to get involved, and please note that the brokerage does source a specific type of investment deal. They can't service the whole of the market, but there's a specific type of deal that they do tend to come across. Nico, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, and we'll see if anyone's got any questions for you. If you do have any questions for Nico at the brokerage, please pop them in the chat box now. And let us know if you have questions about the deals or offer to purchases. Nico will be with us for about another 5 minutes. So if you have any questions, please pop it in there now. Dave, in terms of comments coming through, what are you seeing there?
A little bit all over the place. A lot of guys still talking about their goals. So there is one thing from here. I'm just checking whether it is. Beatrice, all the internet's fine on our side. Everything comes through a central server. So unfortunately, if you do have a bit of a delay, it's going to be on your side with the stream. And there is always going to be a recording on our Facebook page, on our YouTube. Otherwise, from a comments perspective, there's not really too much. One thing I wanted to hit on, it was Yaku's question. So Yaku was concerned about us going fully virtual. So what we will be doing for everyone who is still cautious about COVID, we will be trying, and that's the operative word here, we will be trying to live stream a bunch of events coming to 2022 and going through there.
Okay, cool. I see there's a question there from Eric.
No, I'm missing it.
Eric Lebo. He says, "Hey guys, it's my first time on this platform. Welcome to the platform, Eric. Tell us a bit more about yourself. Where you're from? What are you looking to achieve?" He says, "Can I please get assistance with the business plan for property investment as I am on the startup stage?" Absolutely. And what I'll do in a minute, I'll ask Dave if he can actually share a screen, Eric, and I'll share with you what this ecosystem is about and how we can help you in your property journey. And it doesn't matter if you're buying your very first property or perhaps you have a property portfolio of 15, 20 properties. Everyone's got their own challenges, whether it's getting finance, whether it's finding the right deal, whether it's getting across a hurdle. Some people are consolidating now. Doesn't matter where you are on your journey. We just need to understand where you are so we can help you. So Nick, if you don't mind holding on just for a few more minutes, I'll actually ask Dave if you could share that screen with us, just to share with the newbies. There's quite a few new people here that are on the call. So guys, like I said, my name is Andrew Walker, the MD of a company called Square Feet, and we are a property ecosystem. And we are here building our own property portfolios. We are here doing JVs ourselves. We're here doing angel finance. And we're here to help you build a successful property business. And some of you need to be part of the SA Property Investors Network, need to be part of a community where you're networking, where you're raising capital, where you're doing deals. Some of you may be very experienced and you feel like you don't need to be part of a network or an educational business. That's absolutely fine. It may be that you're just not finding the right deals. So it doesn't really matter where you are in your property journey. You've just got to reach out to Alani so we can understand, or like Eric, like yourself. where are you now? Where do you want to go? How do we give you the tools? How do we give you the tips? How do we give you the right education? Because when you get into property, a lot of you all already know this. I mean, some of you want to do commercial property. Some of you want to keep it simple and do basic buy-to-let. Some of you want to flip properties and get into Airbnb. There's so many different strategies and ways of doing property. And I've got a saying, the more you learn, the more you earn. So you need to understand what you're getting yourself into. Once you have your roadmap, it makes your property journey so much easier. And maybe that you've got properties and you're struggling with, on the management side, we have a solution for you. In the ecosystem. So it's just very important, especially, I mean, Yako, we know you and you know us and quite a few of you, Sai, but there's quite a few new people. What I just suggest, reach out to Alani. I'll ask Dave, if Dave can pop some details down there for Alani, have a conversation with Alani, and depending on where you are in your journey will depend where we put you in the ecosystem. I know a lot of you on this call were part of the Investor of the Year 2021. If you were there on the evening, let us know in the chat box. What did you think of the event? It was an awesome event that evening. Great success, awesome entrance, awesome winners. Got some really good traction with that event. And that's where we celebrate property investors. The next one is happening in May 2023. So next year gives us a lot of time to prepare and make sure we execute on that. So just for the newbies, yes, this is a coffee chat with Andrew Dave and we get special guests on board, but there's a lot more to this ecosystem than meets the eye. There's a lot of different forms of education, support in terms of support webinars where we get the legal team on board and we get experts on to answer all your questions. So I just wanted to put out there for the newbies. So Eric, your next step, if you said, but what's my next step? Your next step is just to speak to Alani and she'll certainly help you. Cool. Let's see if there were any questions.
Quite a few questions have been coming through. Boitamelo, we have any updates on Daniel Kozadi's program for the youth, so SAP and youth program? Andrew, if you want to give us a quick 2-minute update, I know there's still a bunch under NDA, but if you can give us a high-level idea of what's happening there, that'd be good.
Yeah, so with the SAP and youth initiative, we're looking at taking on 20 students, and we've been working on that for a very long time, about 6 or 7 months. We finally got the program right. We've got some good partners on board. And I've actually got a meeting, I think it's Wednesday morning, with ABSA about the youth program. And we are looking at launching either March, maybe April. So by middle of January or end of January, we'll have a start date where we'll be taking on 20 students in Johannesburg. And it's going to be a full year. It's 10 months, but it'll be a year where we take on property inspections. We do live viewings. We set businesses up for them, and we help the unemployed youth get involved in the property industry. Not necessarily a property deal, but the property industry. Some of these youngsters really want to get on the property ladder. Some of them just want to learn how to build their own income stream in the property space. So obviously, once we release it formally, it'll be on our website. We'll let everyone know all the plans. And I think it's a great initiative. I think it's going to help and inspire and educate, and just help youngsters, build their own income streams. There's a very high unemployment rate at the moment. It's not doing anyone any favors. So that's where SAPN will be playing their role this year. So yeah, that answers that question, eh?
Cool. A couple of questions directed at Nico. Nico, I know this is very specific. Tayani's looking for a deal that he's got 100 grand. He's looking for a deal to invest in. So Nico, instead of maybe talking about a specific deal, unless there is one, do you want to maybe talk about how people can invest with the brokerage if they've just got a chunk of cash like 100 grand?
So look, what happens is at the brokerage, we a lot of times are requested to assist with angel finance, and that's where we try and put some funding together for investors in order for them to continue, whether it is with renovation costs, whether it is with acquisition costs of a specific opportunity. Then, you would be, Tanyani, you would be the perfect person to come together to the brokerage to say, look, I have 100,000 rand available. This would be more short-term type of opportunities. That would be below 12 months, and that would probably give you anything from 13 to 20% return on investment, depending on the opportunity that's provided. So, yeah, if you are interested in providing finance for such type of opportunities, then maybe just give us a call or send us an email at info@brunosamalproperty.co.za. We'll put it in the chat there for you as well.
Cool. Thanks for that, Nico. Sorry, that wasn't the question. I scrolled up. Just a question, maybe a little bit more general from Roger. Can you guys explain the higher bond registration as compared to the purchase price? So, in short, Roger, what we're talking about there is it's getting ahead of yourself in terms of a refinance. I've actually never done one practically myself. Drew, Nico, do you guys want to maybe talk about that practical process, how it works, and why people want to be doing it?
Sure, 100%. So number one is you will come in with an OTP that's going to say, look, I'm applying for a bond for, let's say, 1.2 million rand as an example. And then they will do an affordability check on you for that 1.2 million rand and then come back to you to say, yes, you are either approved for interest rate of this, loan to value of this, but they can then give it to you for the 1.2 million rand. If you then say, all right, but I would like to make use of the future value of the property and register a higher bond, let's say for 1.6 million rand, and you go to the bank and you ask them to register the bond, they will gladly register a higher bond for you, but they're only going to pay out the 1.2 on the registration of the property initially. A couple of months later, once you've paid the bond, and that depends on the banks, between 4 to 12 months of paying the bond, you can then go and ask them for the difference of the 1.2 and the 1.6, but they will need to do a new financing or affordability check on you to see if you would be able to afford that difference on bond payments between the 1.2 and the 1.6, and then they will also then have to do, they'll obviously send out a bank evaluator again to see if there is value in the property and then get back to you. So they won't ever say yes, they will give you the full 1.6 because that's going to depend in the future on that affordability of that property as well as the value of the property. So yes, it's possible to do that up front, yeah.
Yep. And then also, obviously, you'll pay slightly higher bond registration fees initially, but then when it comes to drawing that equity down in a few months' time, there's no going back to the bond attorneys or anything like that. We just extract the equity. It's quicker, and you don't pay anything. So it's a really good strategy. I've done it myself personally. It's very simple to do. You've just got to control the process. So that's it's a great opportunity to buy properties below market value or just under market value, force appreciation, get your cash back out, but just make sure when you do refinance and you pull the capital back out, it's great, money's back in your pocket, and you pay back your angel investors or you pay yourself back to do another deal. Just got to make sure that it's still going to be positive cash flow. We don't want to be in a position where we do a multi-let and it ends up being negative. And that's where you've got to learn how to run the numbers.
Yeah. I think it's just important for you when you want to do that drawdown that you make sure that you actually go and do exactly what you said, Andrew, that calculation, because of that impact is going to have in your monthly repayments is going to go up, and that you don't register a bond for much higher than causing you to be in a negative cash flow aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, some awesome questions coming through.
So we've got two parts of questions from Jan over here. First part is, where do you go for finance for a block of flats? Banks don't generally finance these because they're not normal home loans. There's a bit of misconception there, but we'll talk about that in a second. And then the other side of it is what are the requirements when you want to buy a block of flats. So perhaps from my side, let me just talk about the bank side of it. So the banks will finance what's considered a multi-door property, where there's if it's a 4-unit complex where there's 4 distinct units, they will finance that. They will lend on that. We've also seen some investors finance each unit separately. That's been more efficient. I think it wasn't Tehran. It was forgot who it was. They did it. They were one of the Investor of the Year Award finalists. They had sort of financed each unit separately. So the banks will find that where the banks get hesitant with lending is on multi-tenant properties where you've got 7 people sharing a single property. So not like one person in a flat each. So there's some variation over there. In terms of other requirements, in terms of buying a block of flats, and Nico, Drew, what are you guys looking out for when you're buying blocks of flats? Bearing in mind, we can't do that in Cape Town. You can only buy buildings in Joburg, apparently.
No, it's crazy. The price difference. The price we pay for individual flats is what you pay for your kitchens, man. And just coming back to finance, and I'll pass over to Nico. So remember that Absa Bank, if it's a block of flats, but there's only 6 flats in it, Absa Bank will still look at it from a home loan perspective. If it's 6, but if it's more than 6 flats, there's 7, 8, 9, 10, Absa Bank home loans won't look at it. So keep it in mind because people say, oh no, it's a block of flats, home loans won't lend on it. Some of the banks' home loans will lend on a small block of flats. Nico, I know you've been looking at some in Pretoria, some studation, and there's quite a lot to look at. What's your experience been?
So I think obviously always the main thing is affordability, but on top of that, you have different companies that look at these type of opportunities from commercial. So you're going to look at your TUFs, you're going to look at your what is a business partners. They're going to look at a specific project, and they're going to have their own requirements for each of these types of projects. I do think when it comes to the managing of the property afterwards, once you've purchased it, they would really like to see how you are able to manage that property afterwards. Are you going to make sure that it runs on a good process with regards to renovations, upkeep, security? Even especially when it comes to student accommodation, there's specific requirements with regards to security on these types of opportunities. But these companies will also come in and do their own feasibility studies and then have certain requirements depending on your strategy that you're going to apply in each one of these properties, right? So commercial does have a little bit more hoops to jump through, but at the end of the day, you need to know the end goal and you need to be able to manage the end goal.
Absolutely. So it's not as simple as going in there and just buying a little buy-to-let. And in terms of running numbers, Nico, and even expenses, caretakers and electricity and all the other things that come with it, just investors need to understand how to run those numbers.
Yeah.
Because it's, we see it all the time, people that don't understand or they just don't get themselves educated, but they've got money. They go buy a block of flats, they get it wrong, they pay too much, and they don't factor in all the maintenance, it could be Wi-Fi you're including. It could be the security. There's caretakers. You've just got to be careful when you're going into that sector.
Those small items could become huge, pricey items, and then it could kill the deal. So if you don't put them into consideration, it could really be bad for your deal.
Absolutely. Question, Dave, from Llewellyn. I'm looking to buy land to build a few rental units. Can I add a clause in ATP that states it's valid upon the changing of the zoning? So Llewellyn, just tell us, are you starting out a property, Llewellyn, or are you an experienced investor? Let us know. The answer is yes, you can. And a lot of, call it your savvy property investors, when they do buy land or even land with a property on it, and they want to develop, they want to build units. If it doesn't have the right zoning, for example, it's Res 1, and with what you want to achieve, you've got to rezone it as Res 3, it is very risky to take transfer of the property while it's Res 1 and then apply for zoning, because what if you don't get the zoning? So yes, you can do an OTP, you can put clauses in there, you can negotiate with the owner, you can give the owner a bit more if you need to, but what you're getting from the owner is time. You're getting 12 months or 18 months, but you're going to have to negotiate that and get that contract right. And the great thing there is, at your exit, if you can't get the zoning, you'll walk away. You'll probably still be at risk of a few $100,000 if it doesn't happen. So Dad, that's my answer. I don't know if you want to add anything there.
Yeah, there's a second part of the question from Mbasezi, wondering when the property development course starts. So Llewellyn, we do have a property development course. We ran one at the end of last year. We'll be launching the course probably Q1 this year, and we'll be running some in-person workshops probably later in the year. So we will be catering specifically to guys who want to get into property development, and we do also have coaching and mentorship programs around property development. So Drew can maybe talk about that when I'm done with my spiel. I'm going to disagree with Andrew. You can put it in the OTP 100%. I don't think it's a viable thing to put in the OTP because rezoning can take a very long period of time. It can essentially be a clause that's a little bit too ridiculous. To give an extreme example, I've seen rezoning take like 6 months. I've seen rezoning take 5 years. So it depends on what rezoning, what precedence there is, what the likelihood of that rezoning happening. So I think you can put in the OTP. I don't think it's the kind of thing that'll fly through most sellers, especially won't fly far past an estate agent. My suggestion would rather be looking at what's called a commercial agreement, and you enter into sort of a low-level joint venture with the property owner, where they retain ownership for a period. You go through the process where they give you the right to do the rezoning and the application on their behalf. So they essentially sign over some of their rights to you in that process. And then once that rezoning's done, then you can conclude the transfer. So it's just essentially setting up a commercial agreement for an OTP so that you essentially know how that OTP is going to be executed in 6 months, 2 years, 3 years. But where and when is very important. Zoning really matters. What you can do there, relative comparables. Has someone done it in the area? Are you even in the urban planning zone? A lot of people come to the webinars and come to the events and say, I bought a farm somewhere and I want to put a 40-unit development on it. If it's outside of the urban edge, you're not going to get the density for that. You're not going to have the infrastructure, the sewage, electricity to run those sort of things. So if you're wanting to get into development, it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for beginners, in my opinion. I don't think that you can just start off without any coaching, without a guidance, without a mentor who's done it with you, someone like Mark Berman, who Drew can mention in a bit. Without having someone like that in your corner, development is too much work, too much risk to get started in on your own. You can spend a lot of money and a lot of time and not get anywhere. I'd rather see you do a flip in Central Joburg and make 50 grand and actually have your first deal in your pocket. Than chasing a development in an agricultural zoning.
And I think if you go down that road and you want to buy yourself time, you often have to give the landowner what they want. We always talk about going in below market value. We talk about trying to get the best deal. But if you're expecting the landowner to hold that land for 24 months for you, there's got to be something in it for him. So part of my negotiations in the past is sometimes the landowner will want to get involved with you. So they'll hold the land and they'll take X amount for the land, and they'll take a piece of the profit, or a portion of the profit, or a portion of each property that you sell. So when you're buying a property from someone, yes, naturally you want to take transfer, you want to own it. But in this case, think out the box. How can you incentivize the owner? How can you get him on board? But sometimes if people are desperate and they need the money right now, they need to do the transfer right now, that option may not be viable. But that is where, Dave, it comes down to every deal is different, because every seller is different. Their motivation is different. Their financial position is different. And you need to, as a property investor, have those tools and understand how to negotiate with them, because some of the sellers are very, very difficult to deal with. And they'll see straight away that you want to become a developer, you want to build, but you've got no experience in property. That landowner is not going to have any confidence in you as a property investor. So, we came across Mark Berman. He's got 30 years experience in this sector, in this space, in property. And we're working very closely with them. We put together a 2-day course last year, like Dave said, and the course will be released in the month of February or the 1st of March. We'll come to you with the date later in January. We're making sure that it's got a lot of fruitful information. And in fact, it puts some people off, because when you go through the course, you realize, actually, maybe this isn't for me. So you first got to understand, is that strategy for you? But we'll give you more details later on in the month. I'm conscious of time. I think we can let Nico go. Hey, Dave. Nico?
Perfect.
Yeah, I think just the last point from my perspective, and thanks for the time being on your chat today, Andrew and Dave. I think from the brokerage perspective, if you are not receiving our deals, please let us know. If you are looking to buy your next investment opportunity within the next 3 to 4 months, I would love to hear from you, because we can go and look for these properties for you, especially if you have the affordability but not the time. Then, I would like to go and even have a coffee with you, understand your requirements, and then we can definitely assist in finding them for you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, Nico. For those
Cool,
guys who
Nico,
didn't see,
thank
there
you.
is a link in the chat box for you guys to reach out to Nico, and we'll make sure that link goes out there again. Nico will be on our networking events later this month on the 26th, so Nico might have a deal or two to talk about at our first public networking event, which will be good.
Perfect.
Fun.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you, Nico.
Bye-bye.
Cool. Thank you, Nico. Speak soon, man. Yeah, Dave, so maybe because there's a lot of people that joined us halfway through the month, through this coffee chat, so it feels like it's been long already. Maybe just give us a quick roundup on the events that are happening, and then we'll start wrapping up.
100%. There is 1 or 2 questions I want to make sure we still get to. So I'm going to do this as quickly as I can. Guys, it's January, so we're still nice and easy and slow. So on the 13th is our mastermind. So that's an accountability and coaching session with myself, Andrew, and probably Nico. That'll be on Thursday, the 13th from 6 until 7:30. That's for our professional members only. And then on the 26th, we have a virtual networking event, which is on student accommodation. Is it a viable strategy for 2022 is the topic. And that'll be hosted by some of our coaches, Donna Bonzaya, the 2020 Investor of the Year Award. I can't remember, 2019 Investor of the Year Award, Investor of the Year, and Mulalo, who was one of the category winners for 2021 Investor of the Year. So really exciting event. That is on the 26th of January from 6:30 onwards, and that is open to anyone who wants to buy a ticket. You'll find some links in the chat boxes below.
Awesome. There we go. Good start to the year, man.
Perfect. So squeezing in a few questions, because I did promise Mfundo we'll take this question, and it's always nice to talk about ABSA. Would having leases for my tenants with the bank help with the bank in terms of finance for another property? So Mfundo, only with ABSA, and if you meet some certain requirements. So ABSA has what's called no, I'm
It's called
blanking on it.
future rental product.
Future rental product, where they will consider the potential income of your property towards your affordability, but any income that you're generating from a lease, as long as you're declaring it correctly on your taxes on your income statements or in a limited company, it will count towards your affordability. So just make sure you're declaring that income correctly, and then the banks will sort it out. We'll put a link over there for ABSA and Uber. If you have any questions around finance and how to get yourself into a very fit state for those, I strongly suggest speaking to ABSA and Uber, and don't worry, team, I'll put those links out there now.
Awesome. And I see there's a question there from Rafilware as well. Would you completely rule out auctions for BM deals, or do you need to educate yourself first? So I think from my side, Dave, I've bought in auctions, and I've been with students, some of my coaching students at the auctions. And there's two types of auctions, right? There's your sheriff auctions, which are public auctions, and then you get your private auctions where you go with Auction Inc. or one of those companies. It's safer to go down the road of a private auction. Why? Because you can go view the property. It's not as strict as your sheriff auction. But if you're going down the road of a sheriff auction, just be careful. I mean, most of them are run by the mafia. You'll find little cliques of people there, and they take turns in terms of buying property at the auction. And you'll see they'll say, well, I bid last week, it's your turn this week. And when strangers come through, depending on the auction house, they can be very uncomfortable. I prefer buying properties either before it gets to the auction in the sale and execution stage. So they've had the judgment, it's public notice, and I try to get direct to the seller. I try to negotiate with the seller and the bank, or I wait for it to get repossessed, and I'll then go knock on the bank's door. So part of the education is understanding the journey of someone that starts defaulting on their bond before there's a judgment. There's that stage. Then they get the judgment. Then it goes through sale execution. Then it goes to sheriff's auction. Then only does it get repossessed. So as investors, you should all understand that journey and where do you fit in.
Yeah.
Because if you
just to put it in context, I've never bought at auction. I've never even been to a sheriff's auction. I've only been to like 2 private auctions. All my purchases on properties in that distressed value chain happened before it went to auction. And that's where it's key, because I'm not competing with everyone in a room. I'm not having to deal with the syndicates that might be at an auction like they are in Boxburg, like Leroy told us about.
Yeah.
So you don't have to use that avenue. It is a good way. It is good to understand that distressed value chain, but get involved sooner rather than later at the assisted sales stage, as soon as you can.
And just understand it. And that's something, Dave, which I normally do go through on the one-day workshop with the Academy, where we talk about repossessed properties, we talk about sheriff properties, where we go through the benefits. And, people still get good deals at the sheriff auction, But if you're a beginner and you haven't run your numbers correctly, and, I've seen it happen, Dave. I remember in a live audience, and I said, who's bought at the auctions? And this guy says, I have. He bought the property without viewing it. He didn't realize that the owner was still in the property. So he bought the property, successful, going, great, I now own an investment property, not realizing, didn't do due diligence, that the owner ain't going to move out. That person's not going to move out, didn't open the door, but he's paid his commission, he's paid his 10% down, and it was a big mess. So we got involved, we got Bruno involved, and we got it sorted, but it took a long time and a lot of money. And it just takes one small mistake that can cost you 50 grand, 100 grand, or R1 million. So unless you know what you're doing, I wouldn't do it. But it's just get the education. It's quite simple, to be fair.
Yep. 100%. So unfortunately, I do think we're at our limit. There are a few questions that are going to go unanswered today. Sorry, Andrew and I have limited time. We can only do this for 45 minutes. So guys, if you do have any questions, feel free to email support@sapropertynetwork.com. Otherwise, you can join us next week, Monday, and running Monday 1:00 every week. It's going to be good fun, and we can always answer your questions.
Absolutely, yeah. So Dave, just pop the Umastandi or the link to SAP and Connect for Tough, just for Nomsa. Because Nomsa was just saying she's got a big backyard. She wants to build flats. Yes, Umastandi at Tough, depending where it is, Nomsa will be able to help you if it's in the right area. So Dave will just pop you a link to SAP and Connect. And remember, ladies and gents, if you need to be connected to ABSA to enter in for your tax and trusts, smart will, if you need a will, if you need finance, whatever it is, go to the sapropertynetwork.com website and just click on SAP and Connect. All our partners, all our sponsors are on there, and whatever you're looking for, they'll certainly help you out. And then Justin,
Okay.
we'll be in contact and we'll answer some of your questions offline. Yeah, Dave?
No, I was just saying perfect. 100%. Sounds good.
Yeah, a lot of activity and awesome, guys. And but myself and Dave will be back on Monday at 1 o'clock. Please take your friends in. Now, if you can think of anyone that's interested in property that wants to get started, or they're in property and they may enjoy this coffee chats and they want to get involved, please let us know or tag them in, and we'll see you all next week.
Perfect. Cool. Thanks, Drew. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for joining for the first one. Nice, good, lots of questions, high energy for the first coffee chat for the year. So excited. It's always good when there's some questions to answer. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Good session. Cheers, Si. Cheers, everyone. Cheers.